Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether that be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or that weight gain around the middle that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So then you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it seems like nothing's working. You're putting in all this effort and not getting anything out of it. Or even worse, the scale starts moving in the wrong direction. But we know now that your body is inherently different than what it was prior to you experiencing these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach your health and fitness goals, live a life full of vitality, finally feel back in control and at home in your body again, and understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, I'm going over the topic of what to do about sudden weight gain and menopause, because this is something that a lot of women panic about, right? They're like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And now I'm like doing all this stuff and it's getting worse and worse. And like, I don't know how to make it stop. And it becomes this very overwhelming and very all encompassing, all you can focus on kind of thing that happens in your life. And the first thing that you're going to do when this happens, which is the hardest part probably, is do not panic. And I know a lot of you are like, next, done, not listening to this podcast. That was not helpful. But I know that's always easier said than done. But the more that we panic, the more that we change, the more stress that we put on our bodies just by thinking about all this stuff is going to actually make the weight gain worse. I'm going to dive deep into that a little bit later into the podcast. But once we're doing the calming thing, we've taken a few deep breaths, we've, calmed ourselves down, we're not completely losing it. Hopefully, the next thing that you're going to do is take inventory of the next list of things that I'm going to tell you. In fact, I would love for you to write this out and put it next to your scale or wherever you weigh yourself and use it as a checklist to really help you understand, okay, what could be causing some of these things. And it's not uncommon for the scale to jump up and 5 pounds in a day, 4 pounds in a day, 3 pounds in a day. Like our bodies are going to fluctuate a lot. I touched on a lot of this stuff on a recent podcast with Coach Cariana, but I'm going to outline them here super simply, get through them super quick, and then dive more into the menopause specific type stuff and the hormones. But I do want you to please write this stuff down because it is going to help you understand what to do, give you better insight in your body, the patterns, the habits that you have, those kinds of things. Because if we can understand these things, then we can know how to make it stop, right? Which is probably what you guys all want and why you're listening to this podcast right now. So if I don't explain the why behind the weight fluctuations and how hormones can really contribute to sudden weight gain, and the how to fix it isn't really going to matter, because you don't stick to things if we don't know why we're doing it, right? Like a person that is trying to get into med school is studying really, really hard and working really hard because they know this is the way to get to where they want to be, right? Whereas like a kid in elementary school might struggle a bit more because they're like, what's the point in this? Like they don't understand the real why, right? So if we can understand why these things are happening, then doing the how part is a lot easier. So number 1 to add on your list, water. The scale is used to measure weight, but doesn't tell you what kind of weight. So for example, if you weigh yourself right now, you drink a cup of coffee or you drink a cup of water and then weigh yourself again, the scale's going to go up. So that's not fat. We know that's just water. So your main cause of weight fluctuations is going to have something to do with water for a number of different reasons. So the first one is that you drank water more than usual. So it's true that if you drink water, it's good for your health long-term. Your body just functions a lot better. Your body needs water. It's going to help with inflammation. It's going to help reduce pain because it needs your fascia to glide. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the sciencey stuff because I could dive deep into that easily for a few hours. But if you drink more water one day than you did before, the scale is going to be heavier. That doesn't mean that you should dehydrate yourself because that's not good for your health, even though the scale goes down, because you don't want to change. You don't care about water changes, right? What you want is fat changes. So did you have more or less water in the last 24 hours? That's the first thing that you are going to kind of check. The next way that you can have more water in your body is from carbohydrates. So carbs, in order to digest 1 gram of carbs, needs 3 to 4 grams of water. So if you have 100 grams more of carbs than usual, then you are going to be holding on to 30 to 400 grams of water more than you usually do. Again, that's not fat, that's just water. So did you have more or less carbohydrates than you usually do? Carbohydrates, another thing about them to know is that they store themselves as glycogen in our muscle. So this not only gives our muscle great shape and makes them look fuller, makes us look more fit and toned, but it gives our muscles the energy it needs to work out and gives you energy. Okay. It helps us function properly day to day, communicate with other body systems like hormone centers to help repair those as well. So if you're eating a good amount of carbs and you might not see as much fluctuations, like if you're eating at a pretty decent consistency or at a higher level, your body gets used to that, right? So you're not going to see the fluctuations as much. But if you're someone who eats generally low carb-ish and then you have a couple days that are higher, you're going to see your body hold on to fluid for a day or two. Again, this isn't fat. This is just water. We don't want to cut carbs. Carbs are incredibly important for our thyroid function, for keeping our metabolism nice and high. It's how we get fiber to help us with our bowel movements. It helps keep our cortisol levels down. It helps with sex hormone production. It actually helps with our gut health and our liver health. There are so many benefits to carbohydrates, like preserving muscle mass. So do not cut your carbs. And when we talk about these glycogen storage in your muscle, the more that you eat carbs, the more that your body's going to store these glycogen stores in your muscle, which is good. But that means it's going to be heavier. So imagine you have a car with an empty gas tank. When you fill it up, that's like filling up the glycogen stores in your muscle. You're going to weigh a little bit heavier. Again, not fat mass. This is just more glycogen, more water, which is good. And we want that. The third thing that's really going to affect our water is salt. So salt is a big one. It's incredibly important. It's an electrolyte. It helps with so many functions in your body. So it helps with nerve impulses. It helps with muscle contraction, including your heart. It helps with mineral balance in the body. And while sodium is essential for our health, consuming more salt than your body is used to is going to cause your body to hold on to some excess water. So what happens is your body is always trying to keep things in balance. So if you consume more salt, your body wants to put more water where that salt is to dilute it because you want to have a certain balance of salt to fluid in your body. So if you have more salt, you are going to find like one day from, for example, if you ate out, your scale is probably going to go up the next day or two because you are holding on to more water because you had more salt. If there was more carbohydrates in that meal, it's also going to go up. If you had more alcohol, it's also going to go up. So you have to be aware that a lot of things affect water balance, and it can lead to a pretty high jump on the scale. If you had too much salt one day, just have some more water to help flush it out, to help balance out the water, and you'll be able to get rid of it a bit more. But you shouldn't be getting rid of sodium. Sodium is really important. It actually helps with our cortisol control, which is crazy, I know. It also helps you with healthy thyroid function. It helps you avoid like cramping and stuff like that as well. It has so many great benefits, but we've been also taught that salt is bad, salt is bad. But if you're someone who eats at home a lot, adding salt to your food is really great. Plus it makes it taste so much better. Whereas like if you're someone who eats out a lot, has a lot of like processed meats, probably won't need to add as much salt because those things are higher in salt. So salt isn't bad. If you don't have enough, that's really not good. If you have too much, also not really good. So you want to make sure that you're getting adequate levels of salt regularly. But if you went out to eat or you had some more saltier food than usual, you can expect the scale to go up. The next one is pooping. Okay, if you didn't poop, obviously you're going to be heavier. If you're not someone who has regular bowel movements every single day, you're supposed to, by the way, it's very important. It's how we get rid of excess hormones. It's how we help deal with inflammation, removing toxins from our body. You're supposed to have bowel movements every single day. If you don't, we need to address that for you. But if you're not pooping, you can imagine as you're getting backed up, the scale's going to go up. Again, not fat mass, not great for you either, right? Not being able to poop, but it's not fat, okay? You just have more stuff in your digestive system. We really prioritize digestion and gut health when we are working with clients. We really work on bloating and inflammation to really help keep things moving, to help hormone balance, and that will help you in the long run with better energy and being able to lose weight in the future. But if the scale went up, ask yourself, when was the last time I pooped? That's important to know. The next thing to add to your checklist is workouts. We know that if you are working out and you're pushing yourself in the gym a few days a week, like our muscles are put under stress during that time. And it's good stress because we're trying to elicit adaptation if you are eating enough food. That's like a caveat there. But you are going to see more water retention and inflammation if you've had a really hard workout the day before. And this is your body trying to repair itself. It's supposed to happen. It's part of the recovery process. Your muscles are going to draw water into the cells as a way to help repair so you can push harder in your next workout, so you can grow muscle mass, so you can get stronger. So if you had a particularly challenging workout, or you're just getting back into it, you can expect the scale to actually be higher the days following, just because of some inflammation there, which is not bad as long as you are doing adequate recovery in between your workout days or things like that. If you are constantly pushing all the time, you never actually fully allow your muscles to recover. And then we can actually see muscle loss or too much inflammation, things like this. So again, there is too much of a good thing. If you are trying to get rid of some of that post-workout inflammation, some great things to do are just go for a leisurely walk, get that blood flow going, to get that fluid going. Doing an Epsom bath, drinking a lot of water can be really helpful. If you have an autoimmune condition though, so like hypothyroidism, for example, inflammation after workouts are going to be a lot more common. So if you are someone who has an autoimmune condition, you can anticipate a little bit more inflammation, a little bit of a higher increase on the scale post-workout compared to those people who do not. The next one is sleep. Did you or did you not have a good night's sleep last night? Was it good enough, like long enough hours? Was it good quality? Were you tossing and turning? Do you wake up feeling energized? If we've had a restless night, our cortisol levels are going to go up, our stress hormone. It kind of keeps us in a fight or flight state, which makes our body hold on to water, and we are going to see some more inflammation as well. This is just your body's response to lack of energy and stress. You'll also find that typically that next day you're going to have more cravings, you're going to have issues with energy, and that's just because of how your body responds to poor sleep. So if you're someone who is struggling with cravings a lot or a lot of inflammation, or the scale really isn't responding, checking on your sleep is a very huge thing, because that can make a huge difference, because you can imagine it's a lot easier to lose weight if you're not dealing with cravings all the time, if you aren't having systemic inflammation in your body all the time. Okay, so if you have a day where you had a really bad night's sleep, tossed and turned, a lot of stress, it might be tempting to try and overdo it. Maybe you are relying on caffeine a little bit more, which isn't great because that's going to increase your cortisol even more, leaving you to actually a more stressed state. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It just stops you from feeling tired. So your body is still energy deprived, which is not good. So what we highly recommend is don't wake up early. Like if you had your alarm set and you had a poor night's sleep to go work out, sleep instead. Not worth it to go to the gym. That's going to be detrimental actually for you. We want to make sure that we are drinking more fluids, making sure we are having higher fiber foods, higher protein. We're not skipping meals here. We're not relying too much on caffeine. Up your carbs a little bit. That's going to help give you the energy back that you need so that you can recover and then have a good night's sleep the next night. Because if this cycle keeps going over and over and over, we're going to see cortisol go up and stay elevated all the time, which negatively affects all our sex hormones, our blood sugar control, our thyroid function, gut health, liver health, our metabolism, all those things, more inflammation, and we don't want that. So if you can improve your sleep, your body will let go of water and inflammation, which will help with that scale fluctuation. Okay, so many of you are probably like, okay, so I'm having quite a bit of salt. My water intake's not very consistent. My carbs some days are low, some days my carbs are high. I go out to eat lots. My sleep isn't super great. Like all of those things are cumulative, right? So if you have multiple of those, you can expect the scale to jump up more, right? And again, this is water at first. If we are seeing this over and over and over again, eventually that will lead to fat gain. But this is more like if you see the scale jump up 5 pounds, go through this list. I'm not quite done yet, so we're almost there. Before we dig into the hormone side of stuff, there's a few more things that I want to cover here. The next one is medication or HRT changes. A lot of medications that are steroid-based, antidepressants, anti-anxieties can have side effects of water retention, and that can fluctuate based on other factors that you can't necessarily control. This can also cause our bodies to be a lot more sensitive and prone to fluid retention, even from the slightest changes. So remember that these medications can cause water retention in your hands and feet. Weight loss is still possible, absolutely, while you're on these medications, same with HRT. But if you are constantly changing doses on your own or your doctors keep changing things, you need to be aware that like there is going to be definitely a transitionary period where we can see a lot of fluid retention, inflammation, things like that while your body's adjusting. So keep that in mind as well, because again, that's really important to note. This is something that I've noticed a lot in women because I just don't understand why doctors don't always test hormones before giving you hormone therapy. To me, that's just insane. It's just a guess based on like symptoms and stuff. Like anyone could do that, which I think is like not okay. So make sure you're getting tested first before going on HRT. That's for me, like that is huge. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that. Because I've seen women go on estrogen who didn't need it, or testosterone when they didn't need it, and that caused some pretty huge fluid retention changes, and like was really tough on them. So make sure you're getting tested before going on HRT. Like really push for that. If your doctors kind of like push back, I would be like, I don't want to take something if I don't know that I don't need it. So I want to know for sure that I need it. This is my body. I have one body to take care of. They probably won't come back with anything like, oh no, like too bad kind of thing. Like they'll probably respect that. So just make sure you're advocating for yourself. The next one is stress. So by now, I'm sure everyone here knows the importance of stress. I'm going to touch on that on the next podcast that I'm doing a lot. But I've talked about it in like every single podcast. You guys should all know a lot about cortisol at this point. But we know it's so important to really manage our stress levels. That doesn't mean we can get rid of them because it's not realistic. We can't get rid of, taking care of sick parents or financial stressors, relationship stuff. Maybe there's things going on with our kids, like there's a lot of things that we can't necessarily control. So we need to learn how to buffer stress in different ways, because the real, like being realistically speaking here, you can't get rid of everything that stresses you out. That'd be cool, but like you'd be left with probably nothing. You'd be living in a bubble, which is boring. So we know that stress can be reflected on the scale. So when our bodies are stressed, we go into that fight or flight mode as a result of that increase in cortisol that we see. And this makes us not only feel like garbage, because it does, it leads to inflammation in the body, which we know can lead to water retention. So the scale is going to go up, right? So if you've had a more stressful week than usual, don't be surprised if that scale goes up. It's going to be predominantly fluid retention for you, okay? And the other thing too is you're probably going to experience a lot more bloating. So when we're in this fight or flight mode, it's like we're running away from a bear or fighting the bear. Like that's what our body's primitive drive goes into. So our blood flow gets shuttled to our arms and legs and our brain to be able to fight this bear or run away from this bear. Even if it's just you didn't sleep well and your boss is just being a jerk, like even if that's just the only thing that's stressful for you. But then that means blood flow goes away from our gut, which means digestion really slows down. So this can cause you to become more constipated. It can cause more fluid retention, more bloating, more inflammation. So that in itself also will likely make the scale go up as well. Then we have sickness. So I think we all know that when we're sick, we don't feel our best, right? But I know when I'm sick, I feel kind of like puffy and like just maybe a little bit like flabby compared to usual. And this is because being sick is a stress on our body. cortisol production is going to go up to help our body fight off infection or sickness or whatever it is. And it needs water to be able to do that. So we're going to see again, fluid retention goes up again. So the thing is, from the day that you start feeling better, cortisol can stay elevated for up to 2 weeks post sickness. So this is where you want to make sure you're not like trying to push too hard and like get into a crazy exercise routine and stuff. You want to take 2 weeks to really ease into it after you start feeling better, because our stress levels are higher, so we can't tolerate stuff as well, especially during perimenopause and menopause when our estrogen levels are lower. We just can't buffer stress as well. So it takes us longer to recover. So we really need to ease into things. So the day that you feel ready, just give yourself like 50%. Don't go super hard. Take your time easing into it. Give yourself 2 weeks to like actually get to back where you want to be. Okay. This is going to equalize over time in terms of the scale, what we see, because again, you're going to have more fluid retention, right? So give your body some patience to heal internally before doing anything super rash, because a lot of people get sick and they like panic and they're like, I don't want to lose all the progress that I've made. I don't want to lose the muscle mass. You're going to be fine. It's 2 weeks. Like, just take a deep breath. Focus on your recovery, drink lots of fluids, do some more walking, focus on stress management, and slowly ease back into what you were doing before. Then we have fiber. So I always tell this story about Emma's white chicken chili. It's one of our most famous recipes here at Vitality. It's delicious, it's high in protein, but it's also very high in fiber. And I'm a person that eats between like 15 to 20 grams of fiber a day-ish. If I go higher than that, I find I start having digestion issues. And some people are going to be more sensitive, more or less, things like that, right? So with Emma's chicken chili, I went from having an average of 20, because I had it for lunch and then I had it for supper and then I had it for lunch the next day again, because that stuff is delicious. I'm pretty sure I had 2 servings at supper. And there's a lot of fiber in there. So I went from eating like 15 to 20 grams of fiber a day to 45 grams of fiber. The scale went up 5 pounds overnight. I looked more pregnant than I am right now. I was very uncomfortable. I didn't poop for 4 days. Like I was in pain. Like it was bad. So I had to do some walking to help get things moving. I would do feet up a lot to help bring blood flow to my gut to help digest as best as I could. I was drinking lots of water to try and stay hydrated, because like that's a lot of fiber. And if I was going to be constipated, that was going to be a horrific time once it was time to go to the bathroom. I did a lot of abdominal massage to try and help keep things going, but I didn't change my calories in. I didn't change crazy activity stuff because I knew it was the fiber. And then eventually, after the 5 days passed and I finally went to the restroom and got back to like my regular bowel movements and stuff, then I was good. I went right back to where I was. But a lot of people would panic and not eat and freak out, which would cause more stress. And we know when stress goes up, blood flow goes away from our gut, slowing digestion down even more. So if I would have cut my calories, done a bunch of exercise, reduced my carbs, that would have put more stress on my body. And I likely would have felt that way for a longer period of time and done more damage than good. So it's important to note that. So this is where tracking can be very helpful, looking back at your fiber and seeing. So like where your fiber intake falls, you don't want a huge variance. Like you don't want to be like 12 one day, 25 the next, 16 one day, 30 one day. Like you want to be in a pretty consistent like 5 to 8 gram range, because changes in fiber our body doesn't love it. I'll be honest. Like it's tough to digest and cause a lot of issues, which can then, of course, result in more fluid retention, more bloating, more constipation. And then you're going to see the scale goes up. Okay. The same thing goes with protein. If you go from very little protein to a lot of protein, you're going to end up constipated. So again, that can cause an increase on the scale, and it's not fat. It's just poop, like things are just backed up. And then the next thing I want to talk about is alcohol. Alcohol, everyone thinks, if I drink it, I'll be dehydrated the next day. The scale will go down and I'll go back to where it is. No, especially during perimenopause and menopause, having as little as 2 drinks a week will increase your resting cortisol levels, which is going to lead to more inflammation and fluid retention. But that that glass of wine or whatever that you're drinking, which is usually more than an actual serving, let's be honest, because we love our wine, right? But it can lead to the scale being increased from fluid retention for 2 to 3 days post. So if you're having a drink like every other night or every 2, every 3 nights, you might not see, the scale might just stay elevated from that fluid retention. Okay, and then it's important to note with alcohol that does affect our estrogen balance. So that is going to negatively affect that, which can lead to more fluid retention, hormonal imbalances. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. It's going to affect your gut health. It can lead to more bloating. It kills off the gut bacteria in your gut, good and bad. So this is where we start to see a lot of issues with women. And I'm going to do a whole podcast on alcohol later. I did one quite a long time ago, but we'll do one again, just to, bring in some new information, share some more stuff with you. But there's such an emphasis on women eating clean all the time and, having their fruits, having their veggies, nothing processed. But then you have wine. And wine is a known neurotoxin, which affects our brain chemistry. It negatively affects our gut health, our hormone balance, our stress levels, fluid retention. Like there are so many things. There's no benefits to alcohol. So that's not me saying don't drink it, because I'd be a hypocrite. Obviously, I'm not drinking right now because I'm pregnant. But I love sangria, but I'm not... Like you have to be aware of those things. And then if you're choosing to do that, you have to be okay with the consequences that come with it. And then lastly, I want to dive deep into the hormonal side of things. So first I want to touch on your cycle a little bit if you're still having a cycle. So week 1, right as your period starts, and then week 3 of your cycle usually comes with more water retention. So don't worry if you're trending higher on those weeks than the other 2. So for example, I'm working with a client right now, and the week before her period, or like right at her period, we see the scale go up. And we know it's a pound, sometimes 2 pounds of just water. And then as soon as her period's done, it drops back down again and we're good. And we don't have to change anything massive with nutrition. We keep it the same, and just make sure she's feeling good. We're focusing on stress management and all those kinds of things, because we know that it's just water. We know that. And being on birth control or in perimenopause won't make you exempt to these hormonal shifts, as progesterone is usually going to be the culprit when it comes to water retention and weight fluctuations. So they just might not be as cyclical or as patterned as you used to when you had a normal cycle. And you know that with perimenopause and menopause, when our hormones are, going up and down, up and down, up and down, where there's just, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Pay attention to symptoms that you would have normally had with your period, whether that's PMS type symptoms. Because if you have those, that's a good indication that you're probably having some hormonal fluctuations. So the changes that you're seeing on the scale are likely hormonal as well. So to cap those 12 here, before I really dive deep into the hormone stuff, pay attention to water, more or less the day before, carbs, more or less. Are you constipated? Did you have a harder workout? Did your workouts change? Salt, any change there? Did you eat out the night before? How was your sleep? Any changes in medication or HRT? Changes in stress levels? Where are you in your cycle? Have you been sick recently? Fiber and alcohol intake. That's your list of 13 things to help you be okay, it's this. We got to be our own detective here. But now I want to talk more about the hormonal side of things and how specific hormonal imbalances can result in sudden and sometimes excessive weight gain. And this can be a bit more chronic. This can be sometimes not just water fluctuations. So go through that list first, okay, that I just went through, those 13 things. Now I want to talk about the more hormonal side of things. Okay, so during perimenopause and menopause, low estrogen levels in women can give rise to a ton of physical symptoms and contribute to weight loss resistance or weight gain. Okay. Estrogen plays a crucial role in maintaining reproductive health, influencing bodily functions. And we know that as those estrogen levels start to decline, we can start experiencing a ton of not so fun symptoms. And these include dry skin, weak and brittle bones, trouble concentrating, irritability, mood swings and moodiness, tender breasts and vaginal dryness. You can have hot flashes, night sweats, irregular periods, or no period at all eventually once you hit menopause. weight gain, especially in the belly and hip area, headaches and decreased sex drive, fatigue and trouble sleeping, insulin resistance, and sugar cravings. We also know that low estrogen can affect our bone density, which increases our risk of osteoporosis and fractures, as well as poor connective tissue health. We know it's important for our glucose and lipid metabolism and building and maintaining muscle mass and regulating our blood sugar control. It also helps buffer our cortisol levels. So you can see how estrogen plays a huge role in our health, our body composition, how our body functions, and how we feel. It's not just hot flashes and night sweats, right? Estrogen plays a huge role. When it comes to weight, low estrogen can contribute to weight gain, especially in that belly area. So this weight gain can be accompanied by a decrease in muscle mass, because when estrogen goes down, we have a harder time building and maintaining muscle mass. If we're eating low carb, we also are losing muscle mass, because our bodies will actually break down protein, so muscle in our body, for energy, take that to the liver. Liver will convert that to glucose, which is sugar that goes into our bloodstream. So if you're not getting carbohydrates through your diet, your body will actually break down muscle, including your gut lining, making gut health issues worse, to provide you with energy, which we don't want. We're also going to see if you're fasting, this happens. If you're not getting enough sleep, this happens. So we see this drop in muscle mass, which means your body fat percentage goes up. So you start feeling fluffier. You start feeling like you've lost muscle tone, but you might not and you might not see that you're like a huge person, but you just feel like you don't feel super fit. And this is the beginning signs of low estrogen and high cortisol for you. We know that when estrogen goes down, our ability to control our blood sugars goes down. But then if muscle mass is also going down, that also makes us less insulin sensitive. So it makes us be more insulin resistant or pre-diabetic or becoming diabetic. So, and we know when our blood sugar is out of control, we have a harder time controlling our cravings. Our energy fluctuates a lot, right? And we know estrogen also plays a huge role in your appetite and satiety. So you might find that you are hungrier more often, or when you do have hunger, that it's like intense hunger, or you want a treat and then you have that treat and you're like, that really didn't satisfy it, and it leaves you looking for something more. This can be all hormonal. And we know that we have a delayed feeling of feeling full as well when estrogen goes down. So you can imagine how all of those things can obviously make it hard to regulate our weight, making it hard to maintain our weight or lose weight. It can lead to weight gain, right? So what causes this low estrogen? So obviously age, as we're going through perimenopause and menopause, this is a natural thing that happens, but something that makes it worse or accelerates this or puts you in a poor position for when your hormones naturally start to decline and it drops more rapidly, leading to more excessive and sudden weight gain, is calorie restriction and yo-yo dieting. So every diet you've done, every the low calorie state that you're in, so under 1,600 calories, increases your risk of having low estrogen. We know autoimmune conditions also result in low estrogen. Medical treatments like chemo. So everyone who's kind of gone through the breast cancer and things like that, right? You're on medications that are going to prevent your body from being able to have those estrogen receptors so that you're not going to have an increased risk of having that cancer again. And then stress. We see a lack of estrogen production from your brain, for example. So what is the solution for low estrogen to help combat that? Well, the big thing is going to be de-stressing. I'm going to touch on that at the very end. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever. I want to make sure I get through all the hormone imbalances first. The next one is estrogen dominance and low progesterone. And I put these together because estrogen dominance can be from your body producing too much estrogen. It can be from your body not being able to get rid of estrogen, so it just stays in your body for longer. Or it can be that your estrogen is too high compared to your progesterone. So even though estrogen is low, you don't have enough progesterone to counterbalance it, leading to estrogen dominant type symptoms. So I always pair these two together. So we know that low progesterone and estrogen dominance can lead to, again, a ton of hormonal symptoms, which I'm sure many of you can relate to. And these are going to directly impact our ability to lose weight or see weight gain as well. It plays a vital role in regulating our menstrual cycle and supporting pregnancy. But as women enter perimenopause and menopause, we know progesterone is naturally going to decline. And it can lead to things like sugar cravings, Sorry, forgot to breathe there. Sugar cravings, belly fat accumulation, bloating, swelling and tenderness in your breasts, decreased sex drive, irregular periods, increased or really bad symptoms of PMS. So typically if someone has heavy periods, this is a sign that progesterone is low. And a lot of people will just toss someone on birth control to help with that, but that's not addressing the root cause. Because if you're going on birth control, most birth controls are progestin containing. And this is not the same as natural progesterone. And what happens is when you're getting that progestin, your body stops producing progesterone naturally, which makes this worse. This is what happened to me. I was like, okay. And then went on progestin containing birth control for 20 years almost. Yeah, 20 years. So you can imagine when I came off of it, my body went from having this fake progesterone that your body doesn't actually benefit from. And then my body just didn't produce progesterone anymore. And I was a hysterical mess. Then you start having headaches and moodiness. You can have weight gain or weight loss resistance, sleepiness and fatigue, memory problems, anxiety, night sweats, fibroid and gallbladder issues. So for myself, I had dealt with sugar cravings. Bloating was a really big issue for me as well. Libido was not great. I had some really bad headaches. I was moody. I was very emotional. I always felt very anxious because progesterone is your hormone that helps you feel grounded and feel good and relaxed. And when you don't have it, you feel honestly kind of crazy. I was tired all the time. I would forget things. I would get sweats at nighttime sometimes. And I remember this happening to me in my early 20s, waking up at nighttime and being hot and sweaty and not thinking much of it. I'm like, man, this was my body yelling at me to pay attention, and I didn't pay attention. So this is for you ladies. I did a whole podcast on progestin versus progesterone. So progestin is the most common thing that we see in our birth controls. So I suggest sending that podcast to the younger women in your life who are on birth control, because they need to know that it can make you infertile. It can make you have some crazy symptoms, and weight gain coming off of it can be very challenging. So just so people are informed, because I don't think enough people know about this. That was a sidebar. Low progesterone, we know, can affect fluid balance. It can lead to the bloating, the water retention, like I mentioned. It also really helps regulate our metabolism and our thyroid function. So when it goes down, it can slow down our metabolism. So our body becomes worse at burning calories, which obviously is going to make weight loss more challenging, or weight gain a lot more easily to happen. And we also know that if progesterone is low, then we have that imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, which can cause a ton of issues as well, which can make more perimenopausal type symptoms. It can make weight gain even worse. And when we see women that are struggling with low progesterone, when our progesterone tanks quickly, this is typically where we see a really sudden increase in weight, because that's something that progesterone is very largely responsible for. So the reason that this happens is because we cannot produce progesterone in a state of stress. We have a precursor hormone called pregnenolone, and this hormone tells our body to produce progesterone. But when your body is stressed, your body takes that precursor and gives it to cortisol for cortisol production instead. So when we're in a high stress state and we're go, and we're not eating enough carbohydrates, we're not eating enough food, we're not sleeping enough, we're doing a ton of cardio, we've got family stress, and our dog pooped on the floor, and we're rushing around all the time, and our deadlines are crazy, and we're skipping meals, and we're fasting, and we're having coffee on an empty stomach. All those things just keep increasing cortisol. And then if you were on progestin containing birth control, that makes it even worse. And then all of a sudden our progesterone levels really decline when we hit perimenopause. So you felt like you handled it kind of okay leading up to that point. And then it's you hit that point of perimenopause where your ovaries just aren't producing as much anymore. And you see this super drastic fall when realistically progesterone is supposed to be a very gradual decline. And this is where you see your body really start to change and transform when we panic, and we start cutting our calories more and doing more exercise, which actually makes it worse because our cortisol goes up even higher, not allowing progesterone to be produced. So what are some of the causes of this estrogen dominance and estrogen dominance and low progesterone. So you can happen from estrogen being produced too much compared to progesterone. You can have too much estrogen production from fat tissue because fat tissue will actually produce more estrogen. Stress, like I just talked about. Different medications can do that. Alcohol consumption, because alcohol will actually convert testosterone to estrogen, which is not good, leading to estrogen dominant type symptoms. It can also lead to loss of muscle mass. It can also be due to liver issues, which again, alcohol can still contribute to. Detox issues in general, so myelination or methylation. Carrie Ann and I are doing a podcast on genetics and on this specific topic, just so you understand that a bit better. A detox tea will not help with this. Your body naturally detoxes things through its liver. So we're going to talk about that more on a different podcast. Xenoestrogens can contribute as well. So this is like chemicals found in the environment that mimic estrogens in your body. So these are the BPAs and the phthalates and different spray chemicals and stuff like that. And then also a history of birth control use or high stress traumatic events in your life can all contribute. So what is the solution? Because this sounds like not a good time, right? The big one is going to be de-stressing, doing low exercise intensity for a while, like walking. Constipation, because if we're constipated, we know that our estrogen will get reabsorbed into our body if we're not going to the bathroom regularly. So that can lead to estrogen dominant type symptoms. If you are on progestin containing birth control or hormone replacement therapy. And things that you can do to kind of help support this are going to be obviously the de-stressing for sure, but vitamin D and vitamin C can also really help. So you can either supplement with that or look for foods that are high in vitamin D and C. That's always what we prefer, obviously, right? But if you want to supplement, you can supplement as well, and you can get those pretty much anywhere. And again, we're going to talk a bit more in depth about the what to do part at the end of this, so I can kind of encompass everything for you in a nice big summary. So next one is high androgens. So high androgens is like male typical type hormones. The nice thing I shouldn't say the nice thing. The thing that you should be aware of is progesterone really helps keep our androgens in check. So if your progesterone tanks, you're probably going to see your androgens go up. It's almost a given because progesterone helps keep those male type hormones down. And we know that a lot of women during perimenopause do suffer from high androgen levels, and that can lead to a lot of different symptoms, potentially contribute to weight loss and weight loss resistance. It can contribute to a lot of weight gain as well. Androgens, like I said, are typically considered a male hormone, but we do have small amounts of them. But if they get too high, that's when things become an issue, and they can manifest into symptoms like hair growth, acne, oily skin and hair, dark skin patches, thinning of your hair on your head, depression and anxiety, fertility issues, and then PCOS. This is something I had because my progesterone was such garbage. That I had PCOS for a very long time. And it was something that I struggled with a lot, actually. We know that high androgens can then further disrupt the balance between progesterone and estrogen even more. And when we talk about weight, it can contribute to weight gain, especially in that belly area. No surprise here, that seems to be a theme, right? And we know that androgens can impact your metabolism. It can lead to insulin resistance, so we have poor blood sugar control, which can really affect our weight loss efforts. As again, if we're struggling with our energy and we're struggling with cravings, we see an increase in our appetite. It can lead to overeating very easily, and then it leads to difficulty managing your weight. So some of the causes are going to be stress and low progesterone here. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is de-stressing first and getting enough quality sleep. And again, this is a very common theme so far between what to do about all these, and I'm going to go into more specifics in a bit here. Then we have low testosterone. So low testosterone in women during perimenopause can give rise to, again, a lot of physical symptoms and contribute to weight loss or your weight gain. Okay. Again, it's typically associated with men, right? We think of testosterone, we think of men, we think of muscles, but women are supposed to have some levels of testosterone. And when estrogen and progesterone go down, testosterone in women is actually supposed to go up a little bit to help kind of, step up for the loss of estrogen and progesterone. So you can maintain muscle mass and libido and insulin sensitivity. However, As you can imagine, when that goes down, our metabolism slows down. So if estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone all go down, which is unfortunately not uncommon, and we see this in a lot of women, you're gonna have a slower metabolism. So your body is not good at burning calories. So you're gonna see it's a lot harder to lose weight. It's very easy to gain weight. You're gonna have basically no libido. You're gonna have a harder time feeling motivated. It's just like everything's just kind of blah, is like the best way that I could describe it. You have mood swings, you cry easily. You have low energy, low muscle mass, or you really struggle to put on muscle mass despite working out really hard in the gym. And it can actually lead to urinary incontinence as well. So when people are like, pelvic floor, pelvic floor, pelvic floor, yes, but also hormones can really affect this as well. So we need to make sure that you're getting like a good full picture as to what's going on in your body. We know that we are going to see a harder time putting on muscle mass. So muscle mass goes down, which means our body fat percentage goes up. And again, if we're struggling with our blood sugars, if we're struggling with energy, if we're struggling with sleep, it's going to make it harder to be able to lose weight if low testosterone is part of this. A lot of women we talk to struggle with low testosterone. So what can you do? Of course, the answer is we got to focus on de-stressing, because we know that androgens, those other male hormones that we talked about that can get high for other women, can also be synthesized in your adrenals, which can be a sign the adrenals are fatigued or burnt out. So we'll see testosterone go down and androgens go up. And this is typically a symptom that our adrenals, where our cortisol and stress hormones are produced, are getting overworked. And lastly here, we're going to touch on cortisol and thyroid for you before I kind of wrap this all up with a beautiful little bow for you. So cortisol, we have what we call our HPA axis. It's our stress response system. It's really how our brain communicates with our adrenals to be able to produce more or less cortisol based on the environment that we're in, if it perceives us being in danger. So this is where you might be like, I feel like I handle my stress well. But does your body actually think that? Because you might just be thinking that like, oh, I deal with it well, but you could still be having all these things going on in your body. So this is why when people tell me their story or write down everything in the DMs with me, they're like, wow, this actually sounds pretty bad. I'm like, yeah, your body's really stressed out. You're just in denial a little bit, right? So over time, this HPA axis system, our stress response system, becomes more or less sensitive to stress. So it's like if you're constantly in a high stress state, you're going to find that the littlest thing will kind of set you off, right? Like it'll be something quite small and you kind of become triggered and you become like reactive, or, you can feel like your heart rate goes up, or you feel anxious all the time, things like that. But then if you're sensitive all the time, and your body's just pumping out cortisol all the time, eventually your body almost gets overtired. It's like you have this freeway from your brain to your adrenals, and it's like constantly rush hour. Like you're just sending traffic down all the time. Produce cortisol. Eventually, if like there is never time to relax, there's going to be a crash on that highway. And then that signal cannot get to your adrenals anymore. And then you start dealing with low cortisol levels. So the cause of low cortisol is being in a high stress state for way too long. And some symptoms of having low cortisol levels can be you're tired in the morning. You find you're dependent on caffeine. You crave salty or sweet foods. You start having energy crashes, especially in the afternoon. You get dizzy upon standing. You feel at the mercy of your stress or really reactive. You feel kind of weak. You don't think you're getting strong, like muscles just don't feel great. You really struggle with sleep. So falling asleep and staying asleep. You don't wake up feeling well rested. You're struggling with low blood sugar, and you get sick very easily, or recovery takes a long time. Then we have high cortisol, which the cause is going to be stress, right? And symptoms can be that life is stressful, you feel overwhelmed, belly fat accumulation, struggling with sleep, your body is tired, but your mind will not shut off. So like you want to go to bed because you're exhausted, but your brain's just like racing. That's a very common story that I hear. You get that second wind at nighttime. You wake up between 1 and 5 a.m. You get easily distracted when stressed. You have high blood pressure and a high heart rate. elevated blood sugars or you're diabetic, and you get shaky if you don't eat for a few hours. And I know a lot of you are probably like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. That's me. Yes, for most of you, that is you. I'm going to be honest. I talk to a lot of you, and for a lot of you, yes, you are correct. That is exactly what's happening. So what can you do with both these things? So de-stressing is going to be huge. If you are someone who has low cortisol, this is going to take a lot longer to address than someone who has high cortisol, okay? Because if you're in the low cortisol levels, this is where you're in stage 3 or stage 4 of adrenal dysfunction. If you are with high cortisol, you're in stage 1 and 2 of adrenal dysregulation. So it's not as severe, like it won't take as long if levels are high. If levels are low, you have to understand it's going to take longer because you've just been running on high for so long now your body just can't keep up anymore. So de-stressing is going to be huge. Anything that helps you tap into the rest and digest portion of your nervous system where you're actually relaxed, your heart rate is low, your breathing is slow and deep, like it's going to take time. It's going to feel super uncomfortable, especially if you're a type A person and you're go, go, go. It's going to feel like you're not being productive, and that can be really hard, but it's going to be the best thing that you can do for your health, as well as your waistline. High quality sleep and more of it has to happen. This has to be a priority. No high intensity exercise. We're not doing the HIIT training anymore. Your body cannot handle that right now. It's just too much of a stress on your body. And then you need to be making sure that you're eating enough food, having enough carbohydrates. We're not fasting anymore. We're not having caffeine on an empty stomach anymore. There are some supplements that you can take, but I don't like pushing supplements because if you're not doing any of the other stuff, it really won't matter. And then it's just a waste of money. And I don't like when people waste their money. The one thing I will say is vitamin B complex is great. If you are someone who is on hormonal birth control, if you are someone who is very stressed, vitamin B vitamins are quite hard to absorb in our gut. So supplementing with vitamin B can be incredibly helpful. Magnesium will help improve your cortisol levels. Cortisol will actually deplete us of magnesium. So making sure you're supplementing with magnesium or having magnesium high foods is great. Omega-3s to help with inflammation because we know inflammation will increase cortisol. Cortisol will increase inflammation. So we got to break the cycle somewhere. So having omega-3s in your diet is also very helpful. And you can try some green teas, some herbal teas of licorice can help as well. Natural probiotics like yogurt, bananas, those can help a lot as well. And the last one I'm going to talk about here before wrapping it up is our low thyroid. So symptoms of a low thyroid function are very similar to those of perimenopause and menopause. And a lot of women get misdiagnosed and they just tell them, oh, this is just menopause, when actually it's thyroid. If you are getting your thyroid tested, make sure you're getting your TSH, your T4, your T3, and thyroid antibodies, because a lot of people only test your TSH. TSH only tells us how much your body is yelling at your thyroid to produce thyroid hormone. It doesn't tell you if your body's actually producing thyroid hormone. It doesn't tell you if your body's converting that thyroid hormone to the usable form. And it doesn't tell you if your antibodies are fighting your body. So TSH alone does not give you a big enough picture as to whether your thyroid is in good condition. So make sure you test for those three things: TSH, T3, T4, and your thyroid antibodies. This is important because you don't get a good picture as to how your body's actually functioning if you don't have all four. So some symptoms of low thyroid, which sound a lot like perimenopause, are brain fog, losing your hair, constipation, cold hands and feet, hard time regulating your body temperature, mood swings, always being tired, struggling to sweat during exercise, high cholesterol, and a hoarse voice. The thyroid, we know, is so important. I did a whole episode on this back at episode 3, where I explain things quite well and in depth on thyroid hormone. And I'll do one in a little bit again here for you guys, just so it's closer up to the top for all our new listeners. But with the thyroid, our thyroid directly dictates how many calories our body burns at rest. So if our thyroid function is low, our body is not good at burning calories, which makes it really hard to lose weight. It can lead to weight gain quite easily. Okay, then we have people will go on a low carb diet. If you are on a low carb diet, your thyroid function automatically slows down. If you are in a stress state, your thyroid function slows down because your body starts prioritizing cortisol production over thyroid hormone production. So if you are stressed, if you are go, 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 and if you are cutting your carbs and eating too little, you will see your thyroid function slow down. I have seen so many women give themselves hypothyroidism from doing keto and being in a high stress for too long, and low calorie state for too long. And then it's going to make weight loss harder. It's not impossible. It's not a death sentence. You can do it. A lot of our clients have hypothyroidism, as you can imagine. But your risk for developing hypothyroidism increases substantially once you hit perimenopause. And this is because we have a lower stress threshold. So it doesn't take as much to see cortisol go up and then stop our thyroid from functioning properly. So again, very important information. Low carb can really mess you up. You'll lose muscle mass. You're not going to have energy. It'll actually negatively impact your blood sugar control. You won't be able to put on muscle mass. Your thyroid function will slow down. There are so many negative things that happen from eating a very low carb diet. And this doesn't mean you have to have bread and pasta. I mean, you can. I do. I love it. It's great. But carbs are where we get our fiber from. That's important too. So have fruit, have potatoes. White potato is actually better for your blood sugar than sweet potato, believe it or not. You can have popcorn, oats, whole grains, rice, quinoa. Nobody got fat from strawberries, you guys. Nobody got fat from oatmeal. Carbs are so important. And for your thyroid function, again, with that goes, it does make everything a lot harder. So why avoid that? Why avoid carbs when you know what's going to help you function better metabolically, make your body better at burning calories? So let's say you have low thyroid function. What do? De-stressing. This is very important. Eating more carbohydrates, having an anti-inflammatory style diet can be helpful as well, depending on the severity of your hypothyroidism. Having healthy fats like omega-3s and adjusting your training. Most women with hypothyroidism cannot tolerate high intensity type exercise, not until they're eating enough food and recovered. So there are some supplements. Again, vitamin B complex is great, magnesium, omega-3s, green tea with herbal teas with licorice in them. Those are all great options too. So I do want to point out that, oh my gosh, we're almost at an hour. Dang it. Why do I keep doing this? I used to do 30, 45-minute podcasts. Now they're an hour and I don't know what happened. And I feel like I'm talking faster too. I am so sorry. Okay. So while the solution for all these is varied, there's different things that can be really helpful for specific hormonal imbalances in terms of different types of foods, different type of supplements, what kind of nutrient deficiencies we're typically looking at, that kind of stuff. There is one thing that came up as a solution for every single hormonal imbalance and is going to make a huge difference when it comes to the scale. And this is just one. And this is the one thing, if you can address, is going to change your life. It is how so many women that we help are finally feeling good and seeing the changes that they want, and they don't feel crazy anymore. They feel at home in their bodies. They feel in control. They feel great. They're eating food again. And this was de-stressing, aka cortisol management. So what increases your cortisol levels? What is going to cause your cortisol to go up and then down and kind of just ruin everything, to be honest? Well, under eating, over exercising, not having enough carbohydrates, not getting enough sleep, working out at too high of an intensity, doing too much cardio, not taking adequate rest times between your exercise sets, not taking recovery in between your workout days, not taking time to de-stress, not doing things that fill up your cup, being go, go, go all the time, fasting, having coffee on an empty stomach, stress in general for emotionally and physically, and getting sick and going through surgeries and going through chemotherapy and other medications, childhood trauma, the list just goes on. And I'm sure many of you are like, oh, crap. She's saying everything about me. Dang it. Oh my goodness. This is me. I've messed up. So how do we fix this? As you can imagine, I'm not going to dive into this right now because we're at an hour, which is insane. So I'm going to go do a second episode, which is going to come out next, where I'm going to go in depth into everything that you need to know about cortisol to help manage your hormonal imbalances, to help you improve your levels so you can, again, not have these hormonal symptoms anymore. So you can boost your metabolism, so your body becomes good at burning calories again, so you can feel good and lose fat and see things go the way that you actually want to go on the next episode, because otherwise we're going to be here for 3 hours and my producer is going to kill me. So that's a very long time for someone to edit a video for. So to close everything up here before we go into part 2, here's what I want you to do when you have sudden weight gain in menopause. The first one is take a step back, take 3 really nice, slow, deep breaths, and realize there's a lot of things that you can control, and we just have to investigate and see what is causing the scale to go up. Number 2, I want you to assess that list of 13 things. So, water, more or less water. Carbs, more or less carbs. Poop, did you poop lately? Was your workouts harder lately? Did you have more salt or eat out? How was your sleep? Is there any changes to your medication or your HRT? Are you under more stress? Where are you in your cycle, or are you experiencing some hormonal changes? When was the last time you were sick? Where is your fiber content at? How's your alcohol? Okay, those are the things that you need to address first. And for most of those things, it's just, okay, let's get back to a regular routine, drink some more water, recover, and then you'll be good and come back down. Okay, so nothing drastic there. If we are dealing with more of the hormonal imbalance stuff, which is absolutely one of the reasons that you can be seeing sudden weight gain, but we need to address this through nutrition, lifestyle, and proper exercise. And how we will do this is, like, we're going to talk about this in the next episode. I want to first throw out here before we hop off, though, is that HRT will not improve your metabolism. Can it help with some symptoms like better sleep, better energy? Yes. Better brain fog? Yes. But it's not going to make your body better at burning calories, because HRT does not work the same way as natural hormones. So we have to bring everything into balance, even if you're post-menopause, because even post-menopause, people are like, well, my hormones are tanked, this doesn't apply. No, it still does, because you can have too much or too little of something, even in those small amounts where you don't have enough testosterone or not enough estrogen or progesterone, things like that, thyroid function, cortisol. So all these things still matter because you're going to have your body producing it in different areas. But the thing is, a lot of those things are produced in your adrenals now. So if your stress response is really high, where your cortisol is really low, your adrenals aren't able to produce the things that we need to produce so that you're not having these symptoms in the weight gain. So again, HRT will not fix your metabolism. It will not make your body better at burning calories. So because even with HRT, we aren't addressing the root cause of your problems. What is causing those estrogen levels to be high or low, progesterone to be low, testosterone to be low, androgens to be high, low thyroid, high, low cortisol? Like, we need to address why this is happening, address the root cause, and then that's when you're going to start seeing changes. Okay. So I'm going to talk about how to do all that on the next episode. Also, my podcast producer told me that 60% of you who listen to this podcast are not subscribed. We never run ads, so the only way to help more women access this free information and improve their health is by you sharing the podcast and by subscribing, because the more subscribers we have, the more that the different podcast platforms share that with other people. So if you can please, please, please subscribe wherever you're listening, that would be amazing. If you need help calculating your calories, if you want to get your hormones and stuff assessed for free, book a consultation call. We do that for free, so subscribe. Book a consultation call. We're happy to help. I will talk to you all soon. Okay, that was enough talking. Love you. Bye.